is here and ready to go. We are so excited to have you, and I'm so excited to share some of the different things I've done with the Scribble tool and ways we can use it, or you can use it in your classes. So while we're waiting for everybody to join, if you would go to tinkercad.com and either log in or create an account, because we're going to be really interactive in this one, and I want you all to be working right along with me and playing around in Tinkercad as we go. I'm dropping that link into the chat, so at any point you can ask questions, share anything like that you would like in the chat. Love an interactive session, so please use that. And I'm gonna jump right in. All right, just getting my screen all set up over here. Okay, so we're going to be talking all about the Tinkercad Scribble tool in this quick learning lab today. So before I get too far into that, have you joined the MimioSTEM Challenge? So if you are unfamiliar with the hashtag MimioSTEM Challenge, it is an awesome challenge we are doing where users are submitting things they're doing with any of our MimioSTEM products. So that's my STEM kits, that's our Robo 3D printers, our MyBot robots, our lab disk, all-in-one sensors. And so all you have to do is submit a photo, submit a brief description, and share what you're doing. And then we have lots of really cool prizes we're giving away to winners of this. So if you haven't submitted an entry yet to this, please do so and show us what you're up to. And you get a chance to win some really cool stuff. So just had to put that little promo in there. The link to the MimioSTEM Challenge is also now in the chat. So that is there for you. And now focusing on Tinkercad. So how familiar are you with Tinkercad? Let's just get sort of a baseline. I am launching a poll. We have sort of 5 levels here. Number 1 being, what is Tinkercad? 2, I've heard of it, but I haven't really been there. 3, you've created an account, not much else. 4, a few small projects, and 5, regularly use it either on my own or with my students. So seeing what I've got coming in, we have quite a few of you who have heard of Tinkercad but haven't really played with it. And then a few folks who are saying they use it regularly. So this is cool. We've got, all the way up from 2 to 5. So I'm glad you all know what Tinkercad is. None of us are at 1. So now that I have a baseline, let's get you signed up and started with Tinkercad. So Tinkercad is free. It's great for schools. We love it because it has built-in tutorials, classroom management, all sorts of really great features for a classroom teacher. So if you haven't already created your account yet, do that now. And if you're an educator, which I imagine most of you are, sign up as an educator. That will allow you to access those classroom management tools. Now, if you're unable to sign up in Tinkercad or follow along, especially if you're only working on one monitor, feel free to sort of squish me off to the side and have Tinkercad as your main window. But I'd love to have you building and working in Tinkercad while I go through this. And we're even going to have a little gallery where people can share what they've been building during the little STEM Wednesday. So once you are in, if you could shoot me a "I'm good," thumbs up, let's go, I'm excited, some sort of message in the chat so I know that you are ready to jump on in. Ooh, somebody found out how to do a thumbs up. I didn't even know you could do that in Zoom, but awesome. I'm seeing a few thumbs up coming in that way, a few folks in the chat telling us they're ready to go. Thank you, Evan. Thank you, Jessica. All right. Since we are in, while everyone is still getting in, and one more question for you, and this is just a share in the chat. If you're still signing in, focus on that. If you are in, what type of projects do you think you can do with the Scribble tool? Oh wait, no, I did set up a poll for this. This isn't a chat, but you can put other ones in the chat while I figure out how to launch this poll. Back to the next poll. Here we go. So I put a few different prompts in there to see if you could think how you might use any of these things with the Scribble tool. If you're not sure what it is, The Scribble tool is literally, you draw a picture like with your mouse, or if you have an interactive panel, you can draw right on the panel, and then Tinkercad creates it for you in three-dimensional space. All right, we've got some results coming in on this poll now. Everyone thinks keepsakes, 100% voting for keepsakes. Yes, very, very true on that one. Oh, we've got one person who did not put keepsakes in, but that's all right. I'm sure they voted for other things. We have lots of folks voting for like, about half of you all said animal adaptations and biology. 75% of you saw like gardening and agriculture. Few of you said social studies. So far, no one has put in weather. Okay. Well, I will give you a spoiler of I thought of activities to do in all of these areas. So there are so many different ways you can use it. If you have been following us on my STEM kits lately, I have been on a gardening kick. We built bee houses using the Scribble tool, so students design a solitary bee house. We did garden stakes, and they use the Scribble tool to draw a shape of the plant or a flower. So these are some of our design challenges that have used it that we've been discussing recently and showing recently. So that's why gardening and agriculture is now the winner on the poll that I am seeing here. So you can see some of the results here if you are live in the chat, just for who was voting for what. All right, that should have given everybody else a chance to get in. So starting with keepsakes, one of those high forerunners of the ideas that people thought you could do. One of the things I have showing on my screen here is like backpack tags or keychains. And so this is actually from one of our design challenges on my STEM kits called What's in a Name? And it's for kindergarteners, ideally. And that way they can commemorate forever how they wrote their name in kindergarten. So this one is one of, I've mentioned in my STEM kits a couple times. That is where our curriculum is housed. I recognize many of your names, so many of you already have my STEM kits account, so you can find What's in a Name there. And then another great thing for the Scribble tool is things like ornaments and decor, just any of these sort of keepsakes and holiday type ideas. So now that you've got sort of a feel of what you could create on a just casual, fun, and not really tying it back to too much math or science here, but just focused on creation and play, I'm going to pull up Tinkercad. And your Tinkercad should look something like this. If you started in classes, click on Designs on this left-hand column, and then create a 3D design. That'll get you into a virtual three-dimensional space where we're going to start scribbling. So the Scribble tool is found on the right-hand side of Tinkercad, and it looks like a scribble. It's a little light blue scribble, and when I click on it, I can drag it onto my work plane. And when I do that, it will open a whole new window, which is where I can come in here and just start drawing. So maybe you want to start with your name, maybe you want to start with an animal, but the challenge here, I want you all to join in and either scribble your name or a fun ornament, or you can draw an animal or really anything you want. But I'm going to give you 2 minutes to create something. And at the end, you're going to add them to a gallery I have set up using a link I'm about to drop in the chat. So take about 2 minutes to draw something cool and then share it in the gallery. And you can feel free to share more than one thing. I just used the snip and sketch tool to take a screenshot of this on my computer. All right, question in the chat. How did I get there? Let me get out of this area just so you can see it. So thank you for asking, Andrea. To get here, just going back to the very beginning, if you are in Tinkercad, you click Designs and then Create a 3D design, and that'll open up a work plane. And then once you are in this virtual environment, you look for this little blue scribble on the right-hand side and click and drag it in to open up a 2D environment to draw something. And I'm going to copy that link into the chat now for anyone. So as you finish your drawings, feel free to put your scribbles in this showcase and they will show up as you add them. When you're done, you can also click done to then view your object in 3D. The done button is kind of hiding, it's in the bottom corner, but you can always go back in and re-edit a scribble that you exited out of, you want to get back into, keep messing with, anything like that. So I'm drawing a sea turtle with a mouse. You know, none of these are going to be, well, I was going to say Picasso, but they might just be a little bit Picasso, won't they, when we're drawing things with a mouse. All right, 30 seconds to finish up whatever you are drawing, whether it is a name, an ornament, an animal. And then if you're on a PC, there's a tool called Snip and Sketch that you can just take a quick screenshot with. If you are on a Mac, I bet they have something similar. But the other option you can always do is click Send To in Tinkercad, and it gives you an option to get a photo of your screen. Then to share it, thank you, Jessica, for asking. On this link that's in the chat, the one that's it's a Padlet link, you click on the plus sign and you can add your art right here, attach a link, upload a file, and that's where I will go to. Actually, I need to save this, don't I? Save my little turtle. I can't type. Hey, Smiley has made it in. Awesome. Somebody beat me to it. Turtle. And when I click publish, it will be added to the gallery, either with your name if you're signed in as an account or anonymously. Yes, I can post the link again. Thank you. So there is that link again. That should allow you to come in here, and then the little plus sign is down in the bottom right corner where you can add your image. So while folks are doing that, we're going to come back and visit this in a second, but I wanted to give you some playtime really quick. Oh, great question. And actually answered right here. The question was, can you change the scribble color? And someone impressively just drew a character there and made them yellow because, well, they got to be yellow. So yes, you can change the color of your scribble. In Tinkercad, you see right below the word scribble, there's a color here, and I can say make my turtle green. And so you just look for that colored dot and it will allow you to change your scribble into whatever color you would like. All right, so while you're all playing, I'm going to go through some more ideas. You can keep scribbling, keep adding to the showcase. I love to see what you're all creating, but I want to make sure I share lots of good ideas with you in this session as well. So, other ideas beyond just keepsakes, let's start with some science ideas. Now, this first one I have here on the left, I can't even claim credit for. I saw this years ago on a blog and just thought it was the coolest idea. They had their students creating clouds. So if you have students studying clouds and different types of clouds and shapes with weather and things like that, they can draw the different types of clouds in Tinkercad Scribble. And if you were to then go and 3D print these, you'd want to put them on some sort of a base. Otherwise, you're going to end up with all of these little dots as individual pieces. So keep that in mind if you're going to be 3D printing it. But otherwise, if you are just keeping it in Tinkercad, this is a great, fun way to have your students talk about clouds. In a similar manner, I've seen people do cells with the Tinkercad Scribble tool and have their students, oh, I'm trying to spin around in 3D space, have their students actually build cells and just draw them out. So looking at this, my science folks out there can identify the Golgi apparatus and the nucleus and the endoplasmic reticulum and actually start showing, you know, these different types of things. Now, a question that just came in is, can you add scribbles to pre-existing models? What you can do is combine them with pre-existing models. So for the cell you see here, it actually has a half of a sphere And then I put the scribble on top, and you can see I used a darker orange for the scribble on top than the half sphere below it. And then you would use group and combine them together. Now, we don't have enough time here for me to do a full Tinkercad tutorial, but Tinkercad has loads of great tutorials built in that you can just follow along to learn the basics of how you would line things up, how you would group them. But the Scribble tool is one of my favorite starter things for all the folks who haven't used Tinkercad very much, because you can do really cool things just by doodling, just by drawing. Now, I'm going to shift here to social studies. I know we normally talk STEM, but the Scribble tool is really good for social studies as well. Believe it or not, this vase that you see on the left-hand side of my screen was also created using exclusively the Scribble tool. And I 3D printed this one out, so you can see it prints well as well. So I'll show you on the next slide is how I built something like this. And then the other one on this screen is seals. So if you're talking cylinder seals, if you are talking any variety of seals, coins, all sorts of things throughout history, you could have students actually make their own version of it. And I've also printed out this one. So this is that tiny little cat that you can see there. And you can then have them embedded in clay or stamp it in clay, just the way a seal would be, or wax, but you have to be careful with anything hot like wax just because of the melting temperature of the plastic. So clay is a safe bet. I actually did this activity with my nieces and nephews with their names and from, and then their names. That way they could make personalized from tags going into the Christmas season for them and wanting to name or identify who their presents were from. And so if you're doing words or anything like that, if you're going to be embedding it with clay, because they just stamped it on a bunch of clay pieces, I had to mirror the words. So looking at the stamp, the words were backwards, but looking at it in the clay, you could read them. Love it in the chat. I'm seeing, ooh, I need to make my own personal seal. Yeah, I really should do one too. I just did my cat because, you know, cats are fun. All right, now back to how I made that vase. Tinkercad has rotational tools that are really cool. So essentially, and this is going to go back up on YouTube. So you'll be able to look at the screenshot and pause it and things like that in the non-live version of this if you rewatch it on our YouTube page. But essentially, I scribbled one line. Now, all my math teachers should be paying attention because we are talking rotations here, which I know is a math middle school standard here. So I took one scribble just for half of the vase because I wanted it to be perfectly symmetrical. And then I flipped it, so that's reflections for my math teachers, lined it up, and then rotated it a whole bunch of times, all the way until it went fully around to make a vase. Now, Tinkercad makes that really easy because one of their buttons is called the duplicate and repeat. So whenever you make an edit to it, you can just keep clicking duplicate. So in this case, I rotated it maybe 3 or 4 degrees and then just kept clicking duplicate until it rotated the rest of the way until I had a full vase. In the chat, I'm seeing would be great to practice cuneiform for ancient civilizations. I forget what cuneiform is, but it sounds cool. And then I made different scribbles for the handles. But, you know, this is one of those more complex, more intense things. When I start thinking about rotational symmetry with the Scribble tool, I'm thinking ornaments with snowflakes. I'm thinking fractals. There's so many cool things you could do using rotations and the Scribble tool. Now, I did have make your own stamp or seal in here, so you guys can do that if anyone would like to, but I'm going to keep moving because we're already at 20 minutes. I knew I was going to have too much fun stuff to say. So I'm going to keep sharing ideas while you all scribble a tool or a seal, and feel free to drop that in the, what's it called again? Showcase. Ooh, hey, we got a name. Thanks, Andrea. So, all right, so I see we've got one more in here. We're still adding to it. But back to my slide deck here. Art. All right, so this first one here, textured palette knives. This is fully inspired by Shelly Emsley, one of our teachers, she just did an amazing presentation at our Ready, Set, STEM event earlier in November. So if you missed it, hers was called Texture Trek. It is also on our YouTube page, and that is MimioSTEM on YouTube. If either Preston or Evan, one of my coworkers here, wants to drop the link to Shelly's video, if you can find it, that's where I got the idea for making textured palette knives. Essentially, she had her students looking at pieces of art and seeing and guessing what kind of a tool would have made the textures and then recreating it. So that's where that idea came from. And then the other one, relief art. So I mentioned earlier that you can go back in and keep editing your Scribble, and that's how I created this piece of relief art or relief sculpture. Essentially, I did an outline of a box, and then I duplicated that box and filled it all the way in, colored the whole thing in, and then scaled it down, and then kept duplicating my basic outline box, so I knew it would stay right in the same area. It wouldn't go off different directions, and just built up my scenery, do the back layer, do the midground, do the foreground. So you can really tie in a lot of art terms here as well. And just to show you, I'm going to jump quickly back into Tinkercad to show you how you might do something like this. So here's my little turtle that I created. But again, if I wanted to print this out, I want the background solid. These pieces aren't going to stay together. The centerpiece isn't here, but I can create a duplicate of it. Here's that duplicate button I was talking about. And when I go in and edit my Scribble now, if you haven't messed with these other options at the bottom, there's a regular pencil, an eraser, and a blob pencil and eraser. So I'm just going to fill this guy in, and it's drawing a blob for me instead of a single line, which is a really quick and easy way to create those multi-layer, multi-shape type areas. And then I can just adjust, how tall each layer is relative to each other. So those are my two complex ones, the vase and the relief art. But, I'm hoping that as you've listened to these and seen all these ideas, that you've gotten inspired to maybe try something different. So if you would share things back again in that gallery, I'm going to pull that back up. Or if you'd like, if you don't have anything to scribble because you were just following along watching, take a moment to share in the chat with either something you're really excited to try. Someone already said they want to make their own seal, or if it inspired a different thought for you. So one of the different idea than I shared that you can use in your classroom. And I'm going to pull that gallery back up and see if anything new has been added. Oh, hey, we've got like a cactus here. I like it. Nix, thank you. Another comment, this is so fun. Listened and learned so much. Looking forward to playing more and creating a masterpiece. Yes, this is just such a fun, low stress tool to get your students comfortable just doing a little bit in 3D. So that's why I've been really on a Scribble tool kick the last few months. There are so many ideas I have in my mind that I want to write lessons for, butterfly wings and all sorts of really cool stuff that will hopefully be coming to my STEM kits as I get time to write it. But thank you so much for joining and for sharing and participating in the chat. Love the conversation we had. And so I'm going to launch one final poll here. That is just if you want any more information on our 3D printers or anything like that, you can feel free to let us know if you want more information on any of our products in here, and we will follow up on that. So lastly, join us next week. It will be either Evan or Preston, or possibly both, talking about cool holiday traditions and how you can tech the halls with a 3D printer by creating, holiday traditions, masterpieces. We talked a little bit about ornaments today, but they're going to get into, Hanukkah, Diwali, Kwanzaa, as well as Christmas. So thank you so much for joining. I'm going to end the poll now, and I'll stick around if anybody has questions. Thank you again so much. And one final pitch for the MimioSTEM Challenge if you haven't joined. You're welcome, everyone. Have a great rest of your day.